1970s Japanese motorcycles don't last because they were built better. They last because riders understood them, fixing them roadside, in rain and dust. They survive through tolerance, rough fuel, missed oil changes, hard use. Modern bikes are faster, cleaner, and fragile. Forget horsepower. Look at durability, simplicity, and experience. That's why these machines still work today. 18. Honda CB750, 1969 to 1978. This bike didn't just change Japan's reputation, it changed the world's expectations. The first mass-produced inline-four that didn't leak oil onto your driveway and didn't shake your hands numb at highway speed. When it launched, it made around 67 horsepower. Today, that number looks modest. In 1970, it was disruptive. It could cruise all day at speeds that used to belong to race bikes. New, it sold for about $1,500. Adjusted for today, that's roughly the cost of a basic commuter motorcycle. Now, clean examples can fetch 5 figures, not because they're rare, but because they're still usable. This bike is for the rider who wants history without fragility, the kind of person who enjoys tuning 4 carburetors on a quiet Sunday. You'll hate it if you expect instant starts, perfect idle, and zero maintenance. It still outclasses modern bikes in one brutal way. You can rebuild almost the entire machine with hand tools and a manual. The trade-off is weight, heat, and brakes that remind you what anticipation really means at speed. 17. Yamaha XS650, 1970 to 1979. On paper, this bike looks simple, a parallel twin, air-cooled, no drama. In reality, it became one of the most modified, raced, and repurposed Japanese engines ever built. It made about 50 horsepower, but what it delivered was character, a pulse you could feel through the bars and into your chest. Back then, it cost under $1,000. Today, it's a foundation for custom builds that can exceed the value of some new motorcycles. This is for the rider who wants a machine that feels alive, not efficient. Someone who enjoys vibration because it reminds them something mechanical is happening beneath them. You'll hate it if you want smoothness, silence, and a bike that disappears under you. It still beats modern machines in adaptability. You can turn it into a cafe racer, a scrambler, or a dirt tracker with basic fabrication. The trade-off is constant attention, electrical gremlins, carb tuning, and an engine that demands respect when pushed. 16. Kawasaki Z1900, 1972 to 1975. This was Japan's answer to the CB750, and Kawasaki didn't answer politely. With around 82 horsepower, it became the fastest production motorcycle in the world at the time. Not on a track, on public roads. It cost roughly $2,000 new. Today, original examples can command collector prices that rival new luxury bikes. This bike is for the rider who wants raw speed without digital mediation, the kind of person who understands that throttle control is a survival skill, not a feature. You'll hate it if you expect modern stability, traction control, or forgiveness. It still outclasses modern machines in one unsettling way. The power delivery is direct. No filters, no software, just your wrist and the engine. The trade-off is obvious. Chassis flex, dated suspension, and brakes that feel like a suggestion rather than a command. 15. Suzuki GT750, Water Buffalo, 1971 to 1977. Suzuki took a risk when everyone else stayed air-cooled. This was one of the first mass-produced liquid-cooled Japanese motorcycles. It was a 2-stroke, 3 cylinders, smooth, torquey, and thirsty in every sense. It made around 67 horsepower and drank fuel like it didn't trust tomorrow. New, it was priced as a premium machine. Today, it's a collector's curiosity that still runs, still smokes, and still confuses riders who've never mixed oil with gasoline. This bike is for someone who values engineering oddities, someone who enjoys explaining their motorcycle at every fuel stop. You'll hate it if you care about efficiency, clean exhaust, or modern environmental standards. It still outclasses modern machines in mechanical honesty. You hear it, smell it, and feel every combustion. The trade-off is constant fuel stops and a maintenance routine that feels like a ritual. 14. Honda GL1000 Goldwing, 1975 to 1979. People forget this started as a naked bike, Not a touring sofa, not a rolling living room, just a flat-4 engine and a frame built to go far. It made around 80 horsepower, but its real achievement was smoothness. It could run at highway speeds all day without stressing the engine or the rider. It sold for about $3,000. Today, early models are rising in value as riders rediscover what long-distance comfort used to mean. This bike is for the rider who measures trips in days, not miles. Someone who prefers steady progress over excitement. You'll hate it if you want lightness, flickability, or anything that feels sporty. It still beats modern tourers in mechanical longevity. The engines regularly cross six-figure mileage with basic care. The trade-off is size, weight, and a riding experience that feels more like piloting than riding. 13. Yamaha RD 350, 1973 to 1975. This one didn't last because it was gentle. It lasted because people refused to let it die. A two-stroke twin that made around 39 horsepower in a frame that weighed almost nothing. It earned a reputation for being faster than bikes with double its displacement, at least in the hands of someone who knew how to ride it. It was cheap when new. It's not cheap now. This is for the rider who enjoys chaos, precision, and constant involvement. Someone who doesn't mind rebuilding top ends as part of ownership. You'll hate it if you want reliability in the modern sense of the word. It still outclasses modern bikes in power-to-weight thrill. The trade-off is fragility, fuel consumption, and an engine that treats maintenance as a requirement, not a suggestion. 12. Kawasaki KH500. 1970 to 1976. This machine earned a nickname it never escaped, the Widowmaker. 3 cylinders, 2-stroke, enough power to overwhelm its own chassis if you weren't careful. It made around 60 horsepower and delivered it abruptly, without warning. This bike is for the rider who understands restraint, someone who respects reputation as much as performance. You'll hate it if you want predictability. It still surpasses modern bikes in one way that's hard to quantify: fear. The trade-off is constant vigilance and a learning curve that doesn't forgive mistakes. 11. Honda XL 250, 1972 to 1979. While the street bikes chased speed, this one chased roads that barely existed. A simple, air-cooled single designed to run in mud, dust, and places maps forgot. It didn't make much power. It didn't need to. This is for the rider who values access over acceleration, someone who would rather reach the end of a broken trail than the top of a speed chart. You'll hate it if you expect comfort, wind protection, or smooth pavement manners. It still outclasses modern adventure bikes in weight and simplicity. The trade-off is range, speed, and long-distance comfort, and this is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Every one of these machines survives for the same reason. Not because they are fast, not because they are beautiful, but because when something goes wrong, you can still do something about it. Because the moment motorcycles stopped assuming you were part of the machine, they started assuming a system would take your place, and that assumption changed everything. 10. Suzuki GS750, 1976 to 1979. This was Suzuki's quiet declaration that it could build a 4-cylinder machine to last, not just to impress. With around 68 horsepower, it wasn't the fastest in its class. It didn't need to be. What it delivered was balance, power that didn't stress the engine, a chassis that didn't beg for constant correction. New, it sat comfortably in the middle of the price range. Today, it sits in a strange place, not a headline collector bike, not disposable, just dependable. This is for the rider who values predictability. Someone who wants a motorcycle that feels like a tool, not a statement. You'll hate it if you want attention or drama. It still outclasses many modern bikes in mechanical restraint. It doesn't chase peak numbers. It lives in a range where parts last longer and stress stays lower. The trade-off is weight and a riding feel that some will call dull instead of honest. 9. Honda CB504, 1971 to 1977. Often overshadowed by its bigger brother, this one earned a reputation the slow way, through mileage. It made around 50 horsepower, enough to keep up with traffic, enough to tour, enough to commute. It was cheaper than the 750 when new. Today, it's often more respected by people who actually ride, not just collect. This bike is for someone who wants a classic without the burden of size and heat. You'll hate it if you want dominance on the highway. It still surpasses modern machines in usability. Light, narrow, and easy to work on. The trade-off is limited top-end performance and brakes that demand planning,
not reaction.
8. Yamaha SR500, 1978 to 1979.
One cylinder, one carburetor, one kickstarter. This bike made around 32 horsepower and refused to pretend it needed more. It was inexpensive when new and remains affordable today, not because it's forgotten, but because it doesn't chase trends. This is for the rider who enjoys rituals, starting sequences, mechanical feedback, the feeling that riding is an act, not a convenience. You'll hate it if you want push-button reliability and smoothness. It still beats modern bikes in purity. There is almost nothing between you and the engine. The trade-off is vibration, limited speed, and a starting process that punishes impatience. 7. Kawasaki KZ650, 1976 to 1979. Smaller than the Z1, smarter for daily life. With around 64 horsepower, it delivered performance you could actually use without constantly fighting the bike. It was priced as a practical alternative. Today, it's recognized as one of the most livable classics of the era. This is for the rider who wants vintage without constant compromise. You'll hate it if you want excess in any form. It still outclasses modern bikes in mechanical accessibility. The trade-off is suspension and braking that feel dated the moment you push hard.
6. Suzuki TS185, 1971 to 1979. While road bikes chased asphalt, this one chased forests, farms, and forgotten paths. A small two-stroke single designed to be abused and still come back for more. It didn't make impressive numbers, it made memories. This is for the rider who values where they can go more than how fast they get there. You'll hate it if you care about comfort or long highway stretches. It still surpasses modern trail bikes in simplicity. Fewer parts, fewer systems, more room for improvisation. The trade-off is noise, emissions, and an engine that demands frequent attention. 5. Honda CB350 Twin, 1970 to 1973. This was transportation for a generation. With around 36 horsepower, it wasn't exciting, it was reliable, and that made it revolutionary. It was cheap when new. Today, it's a symbol of how many people first learned what a motorcycle could be. This is for the rider who values lightness and manageability. You'll hate it if you expect highway dominance. It still beats modern bikes in approachability. The trade-off is limited performance and a frame that reminds you it was never meant for aggression. 4. Yamaha XS1100, 1978 to 1979. Yamaha went big, really big. This engine produced around 95 horsepower, making it one of the most powerful production bikes of its time. It was expensive when new and remains respected for sheer mechanical presence. This is for the rider who enjoys mass, stability, and a sense of unstoppable momentum. You'll hate it if you want agility. It still surpasses modern machines in engine longevity under load. The trade-off is weight, fuel consumption, and a riding experience that demands space. 3. Kawasaki KE175, 1970 to 1979. Small, light, uncomplicated. This bike didn't aim to impress. It aimed to survive. This is for the rider who wants a machine that can be fixed anywhere by anyone. You'll hate it if you want speed. It still beats modern bikes in repairability. The trade-off is performance and comfort. 2. Suzuki RE5, 1974 to 1976. Rotary engine, radical design, a gamble that didn't pay off commercially. It made around 62 horsepower and introduced a level of complexity most riders weren't ready for. This is for the collector who values engineering experiments. You'll hate it if you want easy ownership. It still surpasses modern bikes in uniqueness. The trade-off is part scarcity and specialized knowledge. 1. Honda CB400F, 1975 to 1977. Small, precise, and beautifully engineered. With around 37 horsepower, it focused on balance rather than brute force. This is for the rider who values craftsmanship over size. You'll hate it if you want presence. It still beats modern bikes in mechanical elegance. The trade-off is limited power and higher maintenance for a small engine. These bikes weren't made for users, they were made for owners. You can touch them, fix them, and learn from them. Every scratch and repair becomes part of their story and yours. In a world of sealed machines, they still speak if you listen.